there's a hammer, one or two hammers that you can pick. And once you pick them, you change in some sort of God mode, like everything is in reverse. And you then all of a sudden you can smash the barrels and there's a sound and a music coming along. Gamers, welcome to Pixel and Meeple podcast, where we talk about games, board games, card games, video games, just games, and all the magical moments that those games create. Those fond memories, difficult levels that never seem to be able to beat, and those moments that you were able to win in that sneaky moment. Personal game stories. We're gonna dust off some old games and some potential newfound classics that we have played. I'm Andrew, your host, and I'm joined with Robin, my co-host. And before we're gonna head into this first segment, where we are gonna dust off some old classics, let me just first say, this is our first episode ever.
Oh, I'm excited. When you pitched this towards me, I was like, that sounds fun. We talk a lot about games, and sharing that as well is something that I really look forward to. I also really look forward on how this will go to where it will end, right?
Yeah.
Where if you look at 5 years from now and you're going to listen back to this episode and like, oh, that was bad.
No, this was the best stuff that we have ever made.
Probably not, but those things that the thing is that starting is always the first step, and to be honest, we're going to talk about things we're passionate about. So
yeah, definitely. I mean, we're game enthusiasts for a very, very long time. I mean, we have been playing since I think we have been born. Even did some study together in game design, so we know what we're talking about.
Those are good memories. And really bad ones at the same time.
Yeah, definitely. So let's head into our first segment. And our first segment is Origins. So those games that have found the roots in the early beginnings, 80s, 90s, and the zeros, had touched us as gamers, but also had some very big influence on the game industry itself. Doesn't mean that they're all good games that we're going to mention, but who knows? So we brought 3 games with us, which we would like to talk about. Robin, would you like to start?
I can start. I was hoping you would start because I'm really interested in which games are you bringing, and I really want to know if we have any crossovers where we have the similar games. But maybe one thing as well is this podcast is called Pixel and Meeple. Maybe we need to tell who's Pixel and who's Meeple, because
yeah. So I'm Meeple, and that's not due to the size of me or how I look, but because I'm a little bit more passionate about board games than I am on video games. Do like to say that I really enjoy video games as well. And you, Mr. Pixel.
I'm video game. I do play board games as well, and I have a few of my favorites, and I do have a lot of board games. But video games is more my passion. If I have to choose which one you would keep and which one you throw away, then I think that from us two, it's reversed, right? You will probably throw out video games and love board games.
Yeah, it's only gunpoint, to be honest. Only gunpoint. I mean, there are some very good video games, even that I have in my closet, that I definitely would not get rid of, and one of them is over there. You see it, the golden one?
Yeah,
golden
I know.
Zelda.
Zelda, it should be there. It's a right spot. So I don't have any Zelda stuff here.
Yeah. So for the people that are listening, it's the golden Zelda of the NES, classic game. So let me then start off, right?
Go on, I'm excited.
So the 3 games that I'm going to talk about today all have 2 things in common. So one of them is the year it's been published. It's 1981. So it was actually before we were born. And the second thing is all of the 3 games have been revised in some way.
Well, I love that. That part on that.
And the first one that I'm going to talk about is Donkey Kong. And I'm talking about the arcade version, the retro one, the one that with Mario, or Jumper Guy, as it's been called back then, had to climb up some stairs, walk around, jump across some barrels that were thrown by a gigantic ape called Donkey Kong, a gorilla, right? And he kidnapped, I'm assuming, his girlfriend. A fun fact, it's called Pauline. So not Peach.
Not Princess Peach? Okay.
No, not Peach. So probably he tried to save Pauline and then thought, okay, she is going to be caught by this gigantic gorilla again and again. I'm just going to head over to another one. And then the same stuff happens again. But it looks like a construction site where he's playing. So, or climbing and jumping. For the people that do not know, so I already spoke about a little bit. You're a guy basically in 8-bit style. You're walking around a level, trying to climb up all the way to the top, where Pauline is being captured by the gorilla, and the gorilla is throwing down barrels alongside, which you have to jump over. And this is actually quite interesting because there's a hammer, 1 or 2 hammers that you can pick. And once you pick them, you change in some sort of God mode, like everything is in reverse. And you then all of a sudden you can smash the barrels, and you there's a sound and a music coming along with it. The same kind of like what you experience with Pac-Man as well.
Well, it's the same if you're looking at Mario in the future. It's basically grabbing a star.
Grabbing a star. Yeah.
The thing is that I can understand you explaining this game to people because some people might never played it. Well, my question, did you ever play it in an arcade?
I never played it in an arcade. I played it on the revised version, so it's a bit of cheat mode, on the NES. So they brought along 2 games, Donkey Kong, the classic one, and Donkey Kong Jr. So one is that Mario, or Jumper Guy, is trying to save Pauline. And then once Mario captured the gorilla, Donkey Kong, then his son is trying to rescue Donkey Kong. In the jungle, you have to sort of hang around and jump around and trying to save your dad. I actually preferred, because for me, when I played it, I played both Donkey Kong and Donkey Kong Jr. I preferred the second one, to be honest, Donkey Kong Jr. But credits where credits are due. I mean, it's all started with Donkey Kong. And I think it has such an impact on the game industry. I mean, how many Super Mario games have been published after that? Many, right?
A lot.
Yeah. And quite some good ones.
Yeah. The thing is, thinking back, I never played it. I did play it on the NES. So I did play the normal Donkey Kong. I didn't play the Donkey Kong Jr. one, though. But I did play it. Yeah, it was a good game. And I think that, especially in the arcade, it was just something that nobody saw coming. And it was quite fun. It was also quite popular. I don't know what the sales figures were, but it was quite popular back in the day. And the thing is that if you're looking at it now, it's just so rudimentary. I think that like most of these generations don't even understand and fathom how those games were played. But for some reason, we enjoyed those games because it's quite repetitive constantly. But we enjoyed those games.
There were just 4 types of levels that kept on repeating. But
you only had 2 buttons. You could only do that.
you cannot do much, right? I mean, you could move, you could climb, you could go up and down, and you could jump. But that was about it. But still, if I were to play it again, I would have fun. And that's not with a lot of games. There were some good games that were published in that moment in time. But if you were to play them again, you would like, okay, sorry.
The funny thing is what I see now, especially with the current generations, is that you see a lot of these old arcade or these basically museums, making me really feel real old, by the way, where you actually can play those games, where they have those arcade versions. I find that really funny as well, is that they're bringing it back, and then a lot of young people as well, are actually having a lot of fun with those old games because they are quite simple, but they are fun in sense.
And difficult sometimes. I mean, those old games?
They were difficult as hell. I think that the games now are way easier than games. I have a lot of games like, for instance, Battletoads of the NES. Basically, you couldn't really beat it if you're a human. You had to be some unnatural god to actually beat the third level because it was that difficult. I don't understand why.
Youngsters, we did not have any save games.
No, we got 3 lives and then you had to start over. That was the most frustrating.
So if mom were screaming for you, you have to go for dinner. You either had to just, secretly turn off the television and go down and then hope and pray that the game was still running.
Yeah, but it were quite difficult games back then. They were way difficult as they were now. So yeah, a good pick overall.
What was your pick?
I went a little bit of a different route. So we talked about this, and I went, okay, what can I do? And you're gonna know this one. So I'm not sure if this is in your list, but if this can be in now. No, it's not on your list because you're doing 8081. So the release date of this one is 1988. Can you guess? It's on the NES. I'm just gonna give you.
Yeah, I think it's related to actually the game I just talked about. I'm assuming is it Super Mario 3?
No. One more guess.
1988. Okay. Is it No, it's not Zelda.
No. It's Mega Man 2.
Oh, that's a classic one.
Mega Man 2 for me is, especially on the NES, which I owned very early on, is Mega Man 2 for me was just, I played that game to death. And the thing is that and going through these classics as well and really thinking about it, why does these games really come back towards me, is 9 times out of 10, it is the music that's in those games. When you hear the Mega Man song, you're a guy, oh yeah, man, that's cool, right?
Yeah, definitely.
It actually vibrates really, really quickly. So for people that have been living under a rock, Mega Man 2 is just awesome. You're basically half human, half robot, and you have the Dr. Willy, which some reason always escapes and comes back and makes more robots you can fight. And you basically fight a series of 9 robots. Is 9? Yeah. 8. No, it's 8 robot masters you beat. And basically every time you beat one of the robot masters, you get their powers. So Mega Man 2 has such a kind of iconic robot masters as Metal Man and Wood Man and Heat Man. And especially with those levels, the thing is that whenever you're playing these levels and replay it actually you basically feel it if you're going to go towards Heat Man and you have those flames coming out of the ground and you have to dodge them. Having Woodman with those, especially those big cats on the road you have to kill from the side that shoot you and you have to figure it out. And also that game is like, and picking back up what we talked a little bit earlier about, is that that game was quite unforgiving. So when you had spikes, especially later in the game when you beat all the robot monsters and you go to Willy, when you hit the spike, you die and you have to start over. And you have so many levels, and or so many lives, and if those lives are expended, then you're basically gone. So
yeah, and just there are so many levels. It will take you a long time before you're able to reach the final levels of the Dr. Willy sort of chapters. Yeah. So you're feeling like, I'm almost there. I'm almost there. And those are the most difficult levels that are out there. If you fail, you know it. If you fail, then you fail big.
There was only, the thing is that what they had back in the day, and this is what people now cannot reload to anymore. So when you beat certain robot masters, you got a code in the end which you had to fill in. So you had a sort of a save, but not really a save. That was your saving grace, and then you wrote it down on a paper, and then you
had so many papers.
So many papers. And then you get back, and then you're gonna find Willy, and Willy was quite hard, right? The main thing what you have is that, and especially here in this game, is that you need to have a certain robot to beat another robot. So you have your normal powers that can deal with everything, but it is a little bit harder. And you have some powers that actually destroy a robot master quite easily. And the same goes for the final bosses, where you just look at, okay, what can you kill, right, really quickly with specific powers. And that was really also really different, because you weren't just one robot, you were 8 or 9 eventually, yourself and all the others. So there was a lot of really playability on what you liked and which power you went on. And I think that if you talk about 100 people who played this game, they all pick a different robot master to start with, and they will probably go to the level, because one level you learn by heart because you didn't want to fail, so you did it over and over again, so you know those levels, and you can basically do them with your eyes closed.
I have a personal story about this. So my mom gave this as a present, and once I received it, so I looked at the cover, and I mean the box itself looks cool, right? But if you open up the cassette, it looked different and didn't look that appealing. So I put it in and I started playing, and I did not understand how this game was played. I started with a robot that was almost unbeatable because there is some certain sequence. And because if you start with certain robots, there's almost impossible to be able to beat it. And I was like, you know that feeling, right? That your mom is trying to be nice and try to buy you a game, and you're like, nah. And then after a few days, once I solved the puzzle, when it clicked, I came back and said to my mom, "This is the best game ever." I mean, thank you.
You couldn't let it go anymore. For anybody that really is interested, if you're looking at this game, what is really fun, if you're looking at the speed run of this game, because those things are really ridiculous. It's really fun. They go through it really quickly, and they do ridiculous things in that. So that's really fun. So Mega Man 2 is one of my... the thing is that I can pick it up now and just play through till I kill Willy again. That's one for me that is really a classic, and really, when my son is old enough, really want to play it with him again to see what he thinks when he's able to. Yeah, Mega Man 2 for me.
And talking about music, so what I will promise, I will put a link to a playlist in the description down below. It's a playlist where they redo all the Mega Man music.
Oh,
but
I know
with
which
guitar.
one. Yeah,
you know what I mean, right? It sounds so cool. Sounds so
That's cool. The thing is that for everybody that actually played this game and you're listening to that, you're just basically going and just like, oh god.
You will thank us later,
or hate us because you're
probably.
Probably okay. So next up, what's next on your mind? What is the next game?
So my next game in line is it's a board game, and it's a very old one. I still have it today, but it's collecting a lot of dust. Everyone knows Risk, right? Or most of us. And I really like the premise, and my brother as well. My brother was one of the persons that I played a lot of games with. I really like the promise and the premise of Risk, but it has some very big design flaws, to my opinion. I mean, the amount of luck. And if you were to get that objective or that goal, that you have to get Asia or destroy a certain color of player that is completely on the other side of the map,
you're basically screwed.
Yeah, for 2 or 3 hours. So we were looking for another board game that could potentially give that same type of feeling. So I didn't get the original one, I get the revised one by Avalon, and I'm talking about Axis and Allies. This is a World War II board game, and you can play it with 2 players. You have the Axis, so Japan and Germany, and you will play them both if you were to play it as a 2-player game. And the other side, the Allies, are playing Britain, America, and Russia. And I love this game. I love this game so much. I have so many fond memories of it, especially the ones that we played with 5 players, and everyone is playing their own different country. And it's a very basic setup. And if you were to play it nowadays, I mean, everyone is just gathering resources like money that you can spend on some tanks, infantry, air force, whatever you like to name it. I think the revised version added a few new units to it. But what I really liked is about the dynamic. So the early game is quite linear and happens in the same pace as most of the games do. Of Axis and Allies. I mean, the first few steps are kind of similar. But mid-game and late game, and especially when USA is going to start mingling into the fight, then things are going to be interesting. And I especially remember one game where I was playing Britain. So normally I play the bad guys. This time I playing the good guys. And I was lingering around, and I was playing mostly in Africa, fighting with Germany. My friend of mine was moving most of his troops alongside Russia and Africa. And I was prepping And this is nice, right? Because you're doing a team player setup, you have those moments where you walk off the table and you got to start walking around. And they were scheming together with me. And I said, don't worry, I already know my plan. And you don't have to worry. Within one move, I will end this game. And they were like, what? I promise. I will promise. So what I did, I had some transports ready to move from England towards Normandy, so France, because he moved basically all his troops alongside the other borders, and he forgot that I was able to jump from England towards France. But I put my transports a little bit up on the top, so he did not notice that I was able to do so. And when I did that move, that look on his face was golden. It was classic. And still to this day, I mean, that memory is stuck in my mind. And if such games are able to make such, exciting moments and jump off the table and
actually that impact when we play it really has an impact.
Yeah.
But the thing is that, do you know that we never played that? We played a lot of board games, but we never played this game.
No? We should, man. I mean,
we really never played this game, and I heard you talk about it before because I know Access and Harmonies, but I didn't really know it was 1981 though.
Yeah.
But we never played it. To be honest, I now get a little bit excited. But the thing is that what I do here is that you need a little bit more people. Maybe we can.
The ideal setup, if you were to play with more than 2 players, is 5. Because then everyone can play their own countries, basically.
Then we need to find 3 people, though. How long does it take? Usually, how long the session? Because board games can always take quite a time.
Yeah, I think that's the downside of this game. It can take up to 3-4 hours. It's a long game.
You know what my favorite board game is, so treat it up.
I know. We're probably going to touch upon that later.
Different episode. Okay, well, I didn't really know that Access and Analyze. I didn't really see that one coming though. Just spoiler alert. I don't have any board games in here now, especially for the start. But I will add one later on, and I have my own games in there. Access and Analyze. Okay, well, it's a good pick, but I still have to figure out if that's how that game plays, but.
Yeah, so the original one, my dad-in-law has it, and I have the revised one by Avalon. I think it was released somewhere in the zeros. It took a long time to be revised in a way, but by the looks of it, I would always pick the revised one over the original one, to be honest.
Okay.
And it's not that complicated, the game, but it has some picky rules that you really need to know of, and that's especially around moving with the transport, moving in and out, and those kind of things. So, but it will take a few games in, and then you will learn. But it's definitely worth it. If someone were to say to me, "Let's play Access and Allies," I would jump off my table, leave this podcast, and I will start playing immediately.
Okay, I'll take that personal.
Sorry.
You want to hear my next one?
Yeah, definitely.
This one is basically for me one of the founders of one of the genres I do adore, and it was always my favorite genre. But as time passes, less games came out, and to be honest, there's not a lot of good games now at the moment that really fill my enjoyment of the genre. But this always also goes towards me and my dad playing, and I'm looking at him playing this game. And then when it was my turn to actually play that game, and that's actually Dune 2 by Westwood Studios. So Dune 2 for me wasn't the really first real-time strategy video game, but Dune 2 did establish the format that were years to come. So it was actually the predecessor to Command and Conquer, which everybody probably knows. And that is it set the format. How to do units, how to move around. 3 different houses where you play in the Dune universe. Play either with the Atreides or the Harkonnen or the Ordos, which I read that it's not canon for some reason, where you are a military commander. You get your base mining spice, getting materials, building a lot of units, and then destroying the enemy. Back then, however, you couldn't really select multiple units. You had to click them one by one, which was, if you've never done that, you don't. The thing is that if people think they know what RSI is, that they don't, right?
Yeah,
it's like
it
click,
was
click,
created
click,
back then.
click. So many clicks to get things done and to move through the game. First time you had a world map, where you can choose which mission you would go for. Resource gathering for construction, right? That is, you say that it's easy, but back then that was like, wow, oh, you can use resources and you can build stuff. Also the base unit and unit construction. So, and also then you had a tech tree from sorts, right? You had to build X to build I to build a specific weapon. Also, I think it was called the Devastator, which is basically template for the Mammoth tank or the Overlord tank in Command & Conquer
Oh,
Generals.
nice.
Because
yeah.
what I think, and I'm not 100% sure, and probably somebody in the comments that's gonna read this is gonna correct me on that, but I think it was the first dual gun tank in that. And whenever you saw that thing, it's like, oh, I need to get the hell away. It was just really fun, and I had a lot of fondness about this, to try to install it on DOS, for instance, and how that worked and how to get the sound working, because that normally you took a while, and just playing through it and building that and trying to run around the sandworms that were on there and trying to save your harvesters from being eaten, and trying to build your base and just basically destroying the AI. AI wasn't really that difficult, because the AI was then, it would just send units towards you to kill, basically. It wasn't really that difficult. But for me, it cemented what was to come, right? A lot of game
They
template.
created so many great games afterwards.
Yeah. So it's basically template for modern strategy games, and from there you have a lot of offshoots, right? And the world changed. But for me, that was really the first one where that genre, and I really started loving, and maybe there my game addiction started, so I don't know if that's a good thing, but really trying to beat that and trying to build, and it was so much fun because you're creating things and you're trying to defeat the enemy, and for some reason also took a while because you were clicking all the time, so it really took a while for getting other things.
I really miss that, though. In that specific genre, I really miss those times, to be honest. I mean, most of the other genres, they have evolved, new games were coming out, and then you look back and you're saying, okay, this is, I mean, from a nostalgia perspective, this game was great, but this is, better. But from an RTS perspective, I mean, of course, StarCraft we have to mention, but still, I mean,
I think I do agree a little bit, but I also look at it from a different way. So this template spawned a lot of other great games. I do agree with you that the strategy, it never recovered. I think that a lot of other genres overshadowed strategy games, because if we go like back in the day, I think that especially if you're looking at PC, it was shooters and strategy games. Strategy games was a big thing, right? There were a lot of good strategy games, and it was really on the top there. But a lot of things sprouted out of there, and I think we can be glad that happened. I wish there were some good, really games based on that genre coming out. And to be honest, I feel that there is not a lot of developers that really doing that and really trying to capture that, or also trying to innovate on that, right? Trying to innovate on that whole genre. So, and I've got something for another segment where that comes in, where I have a thing what I want to raise there. But for me, Dune 2, right? The memories I had by my dad playing, sitting and watching him play. And if you actually know this game, and the follow thing people will just get in their head, is that the Atreides had the final weapon you had was a sonic car, and that had a specific sound towards it. And I think that a lot of people say like that actually have to play that, basically replay that sound now in their head, because it was just such a specific sound we're going through, and especially you had to more, it was just, and also just quickly to end it on is Westwood Studios was the studio back then that was the studio doing these kind of things, those strategy games, and they made a lot of good games. So everybody was like, when it broke up, or everybody was like, oh no, where are my strategy games?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, heartbroken.
Yeah, so Dune 2 by Westwood Studio for me in there. So what's your next one? What's your last one?
So my last one is one that's quite newly revised. It's a board game as well. And the reason why I brought this one along is it's such a unique board game. It's called Dark Tower. So what it basically does, it was also published in 1981. Is you have basically a circular board, and in the middle there was the Dark Tower, hence the name. But it was an electronic device, and I know, in the East there were quite some gimmicky board games out there. Toy Factor was all over the place. I mean, nowadays they try to re-emulate with the minis and those kind of things, but it was electronic as well. And what they tried to do is simulate the type of adventure that you would be able to play along. What you were trying to do in that board game is trying to get the scepter. The scepter was stolen by the Dark Tyrant, and it was hidden in the Dark Tower. And first you have to collect all the keys in the 4 kingdoms. There were 4 segments around the Dark Tower. And then you have to get into the Dark Tower itself. And then it was simulating the fight that it had in the Dark Tower. Yeah, you brought along fighters or whatsoever, and they were fighting against minions from the Dark Tyrant. And that was by pushing the buttons on the Dark Tower. And the reason why I brought this one up is I don't think it's an amazing game, but I think it was a showcase that board game could do something else. And it tried to emulate or blend the fantasy that you had and the richness that you had in video games, and try to blend that into the board games. So newly released, I think it's a few years ago, it was a Kickstarter, Return to the Dark Tower. High production value. So if anyone were to look out for it, I think you could easily find it. Don't buy the original one. I think it's sold on eBay for $600, $700 or something like that, or perhaps even higher. But yeah.
Okay, Dark Tower. Do you own it?
No, I don't own it. No.
Oh, okay.
No, if I would, then I probably sold it.
Yeah, I don't know the specific games there. Okay, but it sounds fun. So it sounds, I think that the genre where you're trying to do something new and then being successful. And that's what I think what you see a lot of is like these old games being basically republished. Going towards my game, I talked about Dune, like for the board game Dune, they also revised it not too long ago as well. The old version, and they just put it in a new jacket basically, and because those were good games, there was nothing wrong with them. They didn't make them anymore, and they did. And I think that the production capacity we had back then versus what we have now is a lot of different. So yeah,
I mean, the fact that they have revised or remake the games and it's been sold successfully still
says enough, right?
Says enough,
Yeah, great. Okay, so Dark Tower, Return of the Dark Tower. How do you want to end the segment?
I would say Dark Tower.
Are you ready for my final game?
Yeah, bring it along.
So you need a little bit of guessing. So which way are you thinking of going?
So you brought along Mega Man 2. The second one was Dune 2. It needs to be some sort of in the same category. Is it fantasy?
Yeah. So this is, for me, I think, one of the first real playing action adventures, if I can call it like that. And it was on the second console I actually owned. And it was on the N64, so I'm guessing you already know.
It needs to be Zelda.
It's 100% Zelda. So if there is a classic, I think that I know that in the community there is a lot of strife for which one is the best Zelda. And I think that you can never answer that question because everybody has their own version. The one you have at the wall is probably yours, while The Legend of Zelda, The Ocarina of Time was my first Zelda I played, actually. I didn't really play the NES version. I did see the SNES version, so the Super Nintendo version, but I also never played it back then either. So, because we didn't have the Super Nintendo back in the day. At that point, right, we had something else. So my first real experience with Zelda was the Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time. And I think that a lot of people agree, it doesn't really matter which Zelda you like. It is one of the best games, or one of the best Nintendo games ever made. I won't say Zelda because everybody has his own preference. But Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time. And the first time also, I think that in 3D, going to Ganondorf for the first time and having that whole experience where things weren't 2D anymore, but were 3D. And going through the first 3 dungeons as young Link, and then getting your Master Sword and growing and having the frustration of the 3rd dungeon with the damn fish, which is always everybody that played that is that stupid fish. It was also so with like, where is that last chest? And you were just going nuts to get it. But it's beside the point. Getting your Master Sword, get back, and getting to the first temples, right? Getting to the 4th temple, getting through all those temples, and actually doing that. And a lot of those mechanics, and one of the mechanics I really loved, like, is in the Desert Temple, where you had use the shield to reflect, right, the beam and hit the witch there. I think that the witch had 2 witches. That was just, in that whole game, going towards Ganondorf, the ominous feel, going from a sparkly young Link where everything is green, going towards Master Link where the whole world changed and is devastated and it goes to grey, and there's a lot of, basically, they depicted that really well.
Every or most of the Zelda games do extremely well is that sense of the progression and the mixture of adventure and puzzles. So once you progress, you get new items or new things, and every time you have to think along, okay, so I'm stuck, what do I need to do? And most of the Zeldas that I have played so far try just to do something unique, in the puzzles that they have added or whatsoever.
Yeah. One thing what I also want to, so I also have Nintendo Switch, and I also have Breath of the Wild, and also Tears of the Kingdom, of course. But Breath of the Wild did similar. That's why I like that game a lot as well. Because if you look back and you look at the premise of Breath of the Wild, and you look at Ocarina of Time, it is vaguely familiar, right? You wake up later when the world is devastated, and you need to do stuff in a devastated world, and that's why it clicked for me really on that level. And I basically played that game till I was silly, because I go back towards my Ocarina of Time, and I was younger and I did have all the time of the world. I just played that silly. I think I finished it 2 or 3 times.
But I think every Zelda player wants to have that storyline reiterated again and again. I mean, all the Zeldas that try to do something completely different failed. It's funny, right?
Yeah, but it's quite unique that you can basically do the same thing over and over again, and everybody's like, yeah, we want more of that. And it's like, don't you want something else? No, we want more of that.
No,
please.
We want the same.
Just give me the pizza I like. Just don't give me the other
exactly.
crap. I just want to give me the pizza I like. So there's where they do it over. And the thing is that Nintendo does that so well. And Ocarina of Time for me has such a place in my heart. It was really good. And you also have Majora's Mask. That's why that's on the back, of course, which was also good and really had a different mechanic. But Ocarina of Time was my first Zelda game, where I really get into the world and really play that action adventure for the first time in 3D. And I don't really count Mario 64 as action adventure. I just, to be honest, community will probably kill me, but.
So I got this game as a package alongside Zelda Wind Waker. I was not able to get the Nintendo 64. It's a personal story that I will share in a different episode, but a funny story. But I was so glad that I was able to play it on the GameCube alongside the Wind Waker. Great pick.
Yeah, I actually didn't know if you actually played it today. Did you actually finish it?
No.
and actually going through and finishing it. And it takes a long while. And that's maybe also these games really took quite some time to actually get from A to Z and finishing up. And in the end, I actually got all the hearts, right? When you had to get all these spiders. And back then you didn't really have it. You did have a bit of internet, but basically you had papers on where you could print, and then you can say, oh, I have all these, trying to get all these spiders and making sure you get them all. So yeah, nice. Ocarina of Time for my last pick of the classic.
Solid pick. Robin, you're able to either save, retry, or say game over. And I could do the same for your 3 picks.
This is not what I thought I could choose my own, and you choose your...
No. Oh. No. To rewind, so my picks were number 1, Donkey Kong. Second one was Axis and Allies. And the third one was Dark Tower.
I would say Donkey Kong. They retried it too much, so I would say...
game over for Donkey Kong.
Is it game over, or is it, or is it
or
no
retry?
Save? No, or save. You can save it, right? Or
yeah, you could also save it.
I would just save Donkey Kong.
Okay.
I would retry Axis and Allies, because I think that the last iteration was in 2000. So if you have a new iteration now, it might be better. So you can maybe update the rules based on... And game over for Dark Tower. I don't really know that game that much. So to be honest, that happens.
Fair.
So for me, it would be that. So Donkey Kong, I think it's a timeless classic. So we try to keep it in as long as we can. And the second one is, if it's that good how you describe it, I want to see it revisited. So that would be nice. And the Dark Tower.
So your 3 picks are really difficult, to be honest.
Yeah, to be honest, if you kill off the wrong one, I'm going to be really pissed with you.
I think because Zelda has been redone quite often, I think the latest edition, probably going to touch upon it in a few episodes from here, but is really good already. So I think Ocarina of Time just needs to stay as it is. So save.
Okay, I can live with that.
Okay.
I can live with that.
Then I think iterations afterwards, and I know why you picked it, but game over for Dune. Sorry.
Yeah, to be honest, when I heard I had to do this, and I thought I'd do it on my own stuff, I was like, okay, Dune, you have to go there. You were the template, but there were other games, so I do agree. So no worries on that.
And although I really love Mega Man 2 in the state that it is, I would actually love if they would remake it. I mean, they tried dozens of times. They never nailed it to Mega Man 2, to be honest, at least not for me. So if they were to be able to do it with the same type of feeling, that nostalgia, that sound, and the music, I would pitch in, you know.
To be honest, I don't think they can ever capture that anymore. But maybe if you have like a Metroid Mega Man merge
fusion,
or something like that,
that would
a fusion. Do something like that. Do something like that.
Cool.
Okay, agreed.
Cool.
Agreed.
Moving on to the next segment. So next segment, we're gonna touch upon some new encounters, newfound classics, or games that we just would like to talk about. So what's your pick, Robin?
I want a game which I stumbled upon, and to be honest, it's a very old game. Newer than what we talked about in most cases, but it's Machines Wired for War. And the reason why I want to talk about that game is not because the game specifically was that fantastic, but it was trying to innovate the RTS genre. Because what you could do in that game is basically the premise: Earth, they sent a lot of robots into the universe. They actually malfunctioned at some point and they went to war, and that's basically the premise: the robots fighting the robots for some reason. I don't even know what the reason is, because the robots are fighting robots for trying to do the same thing. Okay,
most likely not the most important stuff in the game anyway.
It wasn't really that story-driven or anything like that. It was robots fighting other robots. It's like, okay, fine. The end robot was a giant monkey. Why would it be a giant monkey? Nobody knows. But it wasn't bad as a strategy game overall. So it it did the same thing as what it's templated from Dune, so it wasn't really that bad. But the thing what it tried to do, which I will still toward this day, and I think that it hasn't been redone really well so far, is that what you could do is that you can build units and you can just use it as any old strategy game. Just select them all, just send them towards the base. But what you can actually do is then jump in a specific unit and be that unit and doing it from a first-person shooter. So you could do that with every unit, which I found a really fun thing and an innovative way. And especially if you're looking at real-time strategy, if you're looking at what can you do with that. So that never really got actually more attention. But if you're looking at fast forward to now, would it be really cool when you have some guy building a base and you have a team of players, like you have a 4v4, and then 3 players are just running around and controlling tanks and stuff like that, and trying to make the difference next towards the quote-unquote stupid AI, and running towards that kind of strategy. I don't know how that works, how you would balance that, and how in general, but the idea they had, I think that was really fun because they tried something different. It didn't really work out because I'm not sure if they did sell a few copies, so I'm not sure how successful the game actually was, and there was never a sequel or anything like that. But it was a 3D real-time strategy. It was really early in that age, and it tried to do something different. So for me, that is something that's why I wanted to bring it back, it actually was a proper game, right? It wasn't bad at all. It was actually fun and actually difficult. For me, it was a real shame they never really moved on forward with the concept and nobody really picked that up. And if another game did that I would...
Yeah, I mean, not this specific concept, but the idea to jump into a character or a tank or whatsoever. I just stumbled upon a strategy game, Company of Heroes, kind of like. So you control a few squads and you're able to get into the first person action. And I mean, it's not that good as if you were playing a real first person shooter, not like, I don't know, Battlefield or Call of Duty. But that wasn't the intention anyway. It's just you were able to both control your units, so strategically place those units around the map, and then not let AI handle the shooting and those kind of things. No, you're able to jump into the first person and able to shoot yourself. Also with the tank. So if you miss, then it's all on you. Not on the AI shooting the wrong side and being a stormtrooper. But yeah, I think it's called Gates of Hell, something like that.
I'll have to look that up. It sounds fun though.
Yeah.
You can still play
it's a
that.
quite new game.
So machines wide for war. So for me, I want to bring that in, and you actually have to play it to just perceive it. But it was just jumping into Spider, and to be honest, the fun thing about that is you're just running around and you're trying to shoot stuff, but you still have to build a base. So you basically forget your base, and this would give StarCraft 2 a whole different, or StarCraft in general, a whole different feel if you have to jump into a marine and actually shoot, and then also have to micro your base. But it was really something, I think, fun.
Cool concept.
That they tried out, and it didn't work out, and probably for a good reason. But I still, going back to my younger self, and I think I was 16 when I played that, I was really getting into that, and I was hoping that they had anything new for that. But sadly, no. But I wanted to bring that in. What's
Great
your
pick.
one? I'm looking for what you...
So I brought along a board game, surprise. And this time, but it's a little bit different. So this board game I played tons and tons of time since I bought this game. And you know that you sometimes have to play a board game because you have to play with your partner, or you want to play with your mom, or they don't normally play the same, team-like games that we do. No action, no fighting, no heavy complex games or whatsoever. This is called Harmonies. And this is abstract puzzle-like game that you play with 2 players. Or even up to 4, I believe. And basically what you're trying to do is you have your player board, which is called your sort of your environment and the landscape that you're trying to build. If someone is familiar with Cascadia, It kind of has a similar feeling to it. So you build out your mountains, your rivers, and whatsoever. Depending on how your landscape would look like, you get certain type of punt. But the most important thing is you're trying to get some animals in your environment as well. Those animals are laid out in front of you in the middle, and those animals need a certain pattern, so tiles. And those tiles are laid out also in front of you, and you have to pick 3 of them. So it could be rocks, it could be water, or whatsoever. And then you build out your environment. So it is a cool mixture and a mellow feeling. I think the best way to describe this game is as if you were having a cup of tea with a slice of cake, and next to it, a knife. All of a sudden, it could be ending up into a sort of like a fight because you're picking the same type of animal or the same type of tiles that the other one would like to have. And I think that's exactly the right type of balance that game is trying to find. Because if it were to be too mellow, I would like, whatever, skip, next one. And it's not too cutthroat that the other person is like, sorry, not gonna pick this on a Friday evening,
Now, what actually fun is like when I saw you play it with your son. So it's also for younger age. It's quite easy to play, and when I saw it, it's like really have that Cascadia feel, but we're a little bit extra with. I think that is more 3D Cascadia instead of putting those markers on that. And I think you can also build in levels, right? So
yeah, exactly. You can stack.
So
I
that
think
is fun.
The best way I always describe it is like as if Azul and Cascadia had the marriage and got some babies.
Maybe also Acropolis, because Acropolis also has the building in towards the air, right? You can build on levels as well. So maybe it's Acropolis and Cascadia having babies. Somebody had babies. That's the thing.
Well, thumbs up. I mean, great game. I would actually bet that. I mean, sometimes you have a hype, right? So everyone gets the game and then everyone talks about it and then it fades away over time. I would bet that this game, Harmonies, will stick around because the people that have it will tend to play this game for a long time. Same as Azul, as Cascadia. I mean, it's in the same range.
But now I've got a hard question for you. Where does it rate in if you have to rate it in your top 20, 25?
I mean, this is a very difficult question.
I know, that's why I'm asking.
Yeah, I don't know. It's not in my top 10. But probably in my top 20.
But the thing is that I love about those games, the same in Cascadia and Acropolis as well. Those games you just pick up and you can play a quick round and you're 30 minutes and then you're in. So there's not really that long engagement and commitment towards a game like my favorite game, which really makes it easier, especially if you have a partner or whatever you're playing with and you can just grab out like, oh, you want to have a game quickly, and then it's always fun. And to be honest, and like I said, you were playing it with your sons for young ages as well. So if you have kids, you can really play with them. It's quite easy to understand and quite straightforward, but still has a certain amount of depth in it, which they can also learn from, right? That is really fun, and us seeing them learning. And to be honest, you had a hard time playing against your son. So
I don't know if I actually lost or not, but it's always fun, And this game is not that taxing to your brain, If you come from work or you come from school and you're kind of fed up with everything, you're like, I would like to play a game, but, not this one. But Harmonies is just right enough to be able to bring to the table almost any time. Even during, if you already had some big games, you could still pick this one afterwards.
Okay, Harmonies, that is then.
So, moving on to the last segment, and the greatest one. So, what are we looking forward to? What I really look forward to is play a game with one of the game groups, and it's a board game again. But it's called S.T.A.L.K.E.R. It's based on a video game, actually. I mean, I played it once now, and it is able to bring across that stealth mode vibe, moving along in different corridors, rooms, pick up items and shooting along. And I was really surprised by it because I was quite skeptical if it was able to capture that certain feeling. I mean, I played a lot of stealth shooter games, and those games would not be my first picks that I would say, okay, let's transition this to a board game. Sometimes you just have to say a video game is a video game, just leave it to it, you know? But this translation by Awaken Realms, well, at first glance, so I'm really looking forward to my second play. Good job, man.
How does it just also for me understand? So, can you compare it to a different game which is a little bit similar, or do I have to think about Nemesis, or do you have to think about?
I think Awaken Realms published Nemesis. I think it shares.
I was right on the money. I didn't really know that.
We're right on the money. It shares some sort of DNA from it. So the way how you move, the way how you have your inventory and your player board and your weapons and those kind of things. It shares the same type of DNA, but it adds a lot more stuff to it. So first thing that they do before you're gonna start the mission, you get some money. And with that money, you're able to buy some weapons and some ammo and some gear. And you need to start thinking, what is the mission? What's the objective? What should I bring along?
So the game starts before it starts.
Exactly. And that's already cool. Because during the mission, you will probably think, oh, why?
You chose poorly.
Yeah, I chose poorly. Yeah. And it has some nice sub-objectives. The kind of the main objective, but you have to move to one point to another, and then things will reveal alongside. So you move to a room, I don't know, a trap is there, or a monster suddenly shows up, and then that small narrative in that one gameplay will change, and then you have to adapt, and then you have to choose and move along. And what I also really like is that sometimes what you have is the line of sight is kept simple. A lot of stealth games or shooter games that are transitioned or translated into board games, you have to measure things out or say, oh, this corner, is it hitting yes or no? Not all, it's easy. It's kept easy. And I'm very glad that they did, because if they didn't, I would just skip and move along.
Okay. S.T.A.L.K.E.R. I never played this video game though, so that's one of the things I missed. I can't play them all. You can't blame me on that. Let me know how that second playthrough goes. Ooh. I'm guessing I'm next.
Yeah, you are.
Going into it was June 2. I was like, I need to find a strategy game again. Is there a good strategy game coming out, or is there something that's on the horizon? Looking around, I found Tempest Rising. So it actually is already out. So it came out like a little bit over a month ago, and it looks and feels, and that also gets into what's in the comments, feels like the spiritual successor for Command and Conquer series, which, to be honest, I'm itching to try it out, see how it is. So for me, that really sounded a lot of fun to do. So Tempest Rising is just basically, now I wouldn't say Command and Conquer clone, but it goes in towards that session with new graphics, new different story, base building, as you know from the old games. I think that what a lot of people say, that it doesn't really do any innovative ways. It basically reuses the formula we all need. And sometimes this is also fun. I think that for me, it does take down a little bit of the variability, because you just go through it and like, oh, I've been there. Is this fun? Yes or no? Because I want to see what more innovative things. But yeah, Tempest Rising was something that I'm like, oh, if I want to try something and I want to try that strategy genre, that's something that I want to looking for.
This game is really something that is worth your time, then I really would like to buy this one and try it out myself.
Now I'm gonna see if I can try that out, or I can get out and watch a little bit. Maybe there are some YouTube clips or anything like that where I can watch and see how it plays before I actually buy it. But that was something that was like, okay, that maybe that can scratch that itch I'm having with strategy games, just to get a bit into it. But I'm still just gutted that that genre is where it is now, and you don't have those great games. And there are a lot of great games I still played, like StarCraft 2 is just a real gem. StarCraft 1 as well, though. But I want to see new games. I want to see new innovations. I want to see what they can get out of the RTS genre. And so for me, I'm just gonna watch and look and let's see what Tempest Rising is about.
Cool. That was it, gamers. Thanks for tuning in. Don't forget to like or subscribe and leave a star rating. But more importantly, create some gaming memories.